Yo, what's going on? I got my headband on right now. Yes, sir, yes, sir. When the hair get lower, it's gonna come down, but my hair ain't nothing yet. Anyways, shout out to Catherine Patron. She followed me on Twitch 2 days ago. Why am I just now seeing this? I didn't even know that. Um shout out. I think before she followed, we hadn't had nobody in like it was about to go on 21 days. So I like when we get new followers. We used to get new followers whenever we play Fortnite. People like want to play Fortnite. Anyways, we ready to get right into this video. Um, this video right here is let me pull it up. 20 remakes that we desperately need. I'm pretty sure there's a lot out there. I might sim through this thing a little bit because it is a whole 37 minutes.
The video game world has gone remake crazy, and a lot of the time, that's bad. Not every game needs a remake or a remaster. You can just port them to new consoles or make them work on PC. But a lot of games really do need remakes, and, well, quite a few aren't getting them. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, 20 game remakes we desperately need. Starting off with number 20, it's The Evil Within 1. The first game from Tango Gameworks, it was flawed for sure, but it's a fan favorite for a reason. The horror vibes are immaculate, the mind-bending setting is... Number 19 is Transformers War for Cybertron. Before being condemned to the living hell that is the Call of Duty mines, developer High Moon Studios made some really cool games for Activision. Two of the best were War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, games based on the Transformers IP that were actually very good and fun to play. After years of movie video game slop, it was Number 18 is The Simpsons Hit and Run, another entry, another game studio killed by Activision. This time talking about Radical Studios, and honestly, you could take any of their games and I would be all for a remake. The Hulk, Ultimate Destruction, Scarface, the Prototype games, they're all great. They are all deserving of a modern re-release. But out of all those games, I think the one that is most likely to actually happen is Simpsons Hit and Run. This game is such a nostalgic hit for a lot of people. Specific remake.
Possessions are fleeting.
And number 17 is Far Cry 2, one of the most intriguingly flawed games ever made. Feels like it came from a completely different Ubisoft, back when the company was willing to take risks, you know? They would do interesting things with their franchises that you might not necessarily expect. I'm not saying I trust a modern Ubisoft to remake Far Cry 2 while retaining all the things that made it special, but I'd like to see this game remade in some fashion at some point. This was the first Far Cry game to go open world, and it had a lot of really interesting ideas about how to do that. For one, you don't play as a specific character. Instead, you pick from a bunch of... And number 16 is Jet Set Radio Future. One of the best games on the original Xbox is still trapped there. Yes, you can play it on the 360 with backwards compatibility, but you have to have the physical disc, and the performance really isn't that great. The original Jet Set Radio got a modern release, and you can play that on PC and Steam right now, but Future is nowhere to be found. It sucks because even for as old as the game is now, it still holds up. The cartoony graphics still look great for the most part. The controls are solid. And number 15 is Alpha Protocol. Obsidian's cult classic spy RPG is heavily flawed but highly respected for a good reason. It's the perfect sort of game for a remake. Keep the super reactive branching story, revamp the actual gameplay into something that's a little more, actually fun. And fans of the game, we're here for the interactive storytelling and the solid presentation of those segments, not the annoying sneaking segments in between. The gameplay is the stuff you have to get. And number 14 is the original Devil May Cry. There's an argument to be made for remaking any of the 3 PlayStation 2 entries of the series. DMC 1 is pretty archaic to go back to these days. DMC 2 sucks, so a remake could fix that. And DMC 3 is awesome, so getting a full-blown Resident Evil-style reimagining with Devil May Cry 5 level graphics would be sweet as hell. In a perfect world, I would like to see all 3 games remade. Both expanded and improved to make them more in line with the 5th game. At number 13,
do not pay somebody to build you a Shopify store, because I'm going to do it free with 20 handpicked products by myself and my expert team.
13 is Uncharted 1. Seems like Naughty Dog is incapable of releasing a new game and are instead relying on remastered versions of their old games. So instead of putting a third Last of Us remake on this list, which I was seriously considering doing, even if only as a trolling, because I don't know that it's not a remake we absolutely need per se. But let's talk about one of their older games that could really benefit from the remake treatment, the original Uncharted. Out of all the games in the series, this one holds up the worst. The graphics are garish. The controls are not as tight as later games. Shooting feels very soft and imprecise. Doesn't have the oomph of the later games. And this is Uncharted I'm talking about here. It's not like it ever got to like Gears in terms of the satisfying shooting, but it got way better in the second game in comparison.
Gears of War is pretty good. I like Uncharted 3.
And number 12 is Resident Evil Code Veronica. It's probably the Resident Evil game in most need of a remake. As great as the Resident Evil 4 remake was, there is some debate as to whether it was necessary. The original is a great game as long as you can get past the tank controls. I can't. I like the remake better. No apologies. But I get why people say that. The thing is, Code Veronica is it's a more mixed experience. It's hardly a bad game. I mean, it's still a mainline Resident Evil game. There's a baseline of quality there, but up to a certain point. Keeping it. And number 11 is Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. One of the best, most faithful remakes of the last few years was the Command & Conquer Remastered Collection, which rebuilt the first 2 Command & Conquer games, so they're playable and look great on modern hardware. The amount of work the devs put into this project is absolutely staggering. They were actually able to recover the original video and make high-definition versions of the original FMVs, and they completely remodeled all the pre-rendered assets to make them as accurate as possible to the originals. Now, Red Alert, EA holds the rights, so hard to say if that's ever going to happen.
Closing in. Player defeated.
And number 10 is Saints Row 2. It's not going to happen. The Saints Row series is 100% dead at this point. The developer's done, the last game in the series bombed hard, the dream is over. A Saints 2 remake is probably just not going to happen. Doesn't matter how much anybody would like to see it. Hypothetically, though, I think the game is a great candidate for being remade. It's a popular, beloved entry in the series, locked onto outdated consoles, and the PC version is in total shambles. It's technically playable on PC, but it's not an ideal experience at all. Consoles aren't a lot better, the resolution is rough, and the frame rate, I don't know how we even lived back then. At the most basic level, I'd like to see a remake, like Saints Row 3, where they just clean it up a little, improve the graphics a little bit, bump up the resolution, just do a little modernizing. But I don't think I'd be too upset if they went the full-blown remake way that leans into all the stuff that made the game great. But, I mean, really, all they need to do is make it so that it works correctly and looks decent on both PC and consoles. I mean, that's really all it needs.
I don't know if I feel like they're gonna take out all the Pico.
And number 9 is Fallout 1 and 2, with the Fallout TV show acting as essentially a sequel to the original 2 Fallout games and New Vegas. There is no better time to bring back the classics. Fallout 1 and 2 are some of the best RPGs of all time, but going back and playing them are pretty rough.
God, these games look awful. Who's playing these 2-bit games, bro? Is this what people doing?
And number 8 is Infamous 1 and 2. I'd love to see some kind of Infamous remastered collection for PS5, but at this point, I don't really expect that to materialize. Without completely redone graphics, I don't see PlayStation going out of their way to bring back games that are 2 console generations old without having some kind of hook. I personally don't think that's necessary. I just want a way to play these games that's not locked on the PlayStation 3, but right now Sony isn't giving me one. They're fantastic open world games, especially the sequel. Tons of fun, don't go on too long. Branching story of the sequel dramatically changes the ending in interesting ways. The nature of the electricity powers in these games make them feel like open world third-person shooters. Instead of bullets, you're just firing bolts of lightning.
It did feel like that. It's not. Wasn't the first game like that?
But the movement abilities and great mission design makes these games tons of fun to play. Another reason I'd love to get some kind of remastered collection for these games is, I mean, there's a lot of lost content, like the festival. And number 7 is Xenogears. It's the holy grail of remakes, the least likely game to ever get one, so obviously we need it really bad. If you know anything about the game, if you've played it, you've heard about it, you know it's got a itty-bitty problem. The game isn't done. And I'm not talking about the usual video game version of not finished where the ending is super rushed and the final boss is a QTE and ends on a cliffhanger. Crap like that. I mean, the entire Xenogears second disc is all just a summary of events over a black screen. Sometimes you get to play through a dungeon or do a fight that the developers actually managed to finish. Number 6 is Stranglehold. Remember this thing? This 2007...
I'm going to just look through everything. We'll see what they got. They got Stranglehold, Mega Man, Deus Ex, Vagrant Story, Bloodborne, and then the first one is... what? Kid Icarus Uprising? I don't... Anyways, we're gonna get out of here. This is the first video done. It's crazy we was able to turn a, I think this was a 39 or 49 minute video into 10 minutes. So